Good day, grade 12s. Welcome to your lesson, Plants Response to the Environment. So, before we begin with our lesson, let us look at what a response is. So, a response is the behavior that is manifested by a living organism, which is the result of an external or internal stimulus. So, a stimulus is anything that causes you to react. So, for example, if you smell really nice food, your mouth begins watering. Responses are actions of the body. So, they can be muscle contractions, gland secretions, or brain actions. So, a response is any reaction of a living thing to stimulus. So, stimulus can be light, it can be gravity, it can be water. So all living organisms show response to a stimulus, which could be change in external or internal environment, such as your temperature or the light. So whenever we are looking at this section, I always want you to think of the sunflower. So sunflowers always grow towards the light. Even during the day, they will move and face the light. So in this picture, you can see, these two pictures, you can see that the flowers are moving towards the direction of the light. They are responding to the light. The light from the sun is the stimulus, and the flowers are turning and moving towards the light. So they are responding to the light. So in later on in the section, when we are learning about the different tropisms, you actually find out that this is phototropism. Phototropism is when parts of a flower or parts of a plant respond to stimulus, and that stimulus, when it's phototropism, is light. So this is an example of phototropism. Now, we want to know, or we want to understand, what brings this response? What causes these flowers to move towards the direction of the light? And that's now when we are looking at the hormones, because hormones are responsible for causing these flowers or these plants to respond to stimulus. Okay, so plants have hormones, all right? But now, what are hormones? So hormones are chemical substances that act like messenger molecules in the body. After being made in one part of the body, they travel to another part of the body where they help control how cells and organs do their work. So, in other words, hormones are like special chemicals in your body which make things happen in your body, such as growing up. Okay, so the reason why you have grown up over the years is because you have certain hormones that are responsible for that. And when you are looking at the endocrine system later in second term or in first term, you learned that the human growth hormone is the hormone that is responsible for causing humans to grow. So it's the same thing with plants. Plants have certain hormones that also help them to grow. So if you're looking at your tall trees and your tall plants, the reason why they are so tall and the reason why they are growing and they continue to grow is because they have certain hormones in their in their system which allows them to grow. So you can also define hormones as organic chemical messengers secreted directly into the blood by an endocrine gland. So hormones cause target organs to perform a specific function. So when you're looking at the pancreas secretes insulin to decrease blood sugar levels. And that is when we are looking at human beings. But in this section, we are looking at plants and we are looking at hormones that are within plants. So now, the hormones that humans have or animals have are not necessarily the same hormones that plants have. Okay, so in plants, hormones are not necessarily produced in specialized tissue. The time taken by plants to react to hormone concentrations is much longer than in the case of animals. So in animals respond fast and quick when a hormone gets released. But when a hormone gets released in plants, it takes a long time for the plant to respond because it still needs to grow. So plant hormones are not true hormones since they bring about a response only in the region of the plant where they are produced. So when you are looking at in grade 7 and you're looking at different parts of a plant, you know that a plant has a flower, a stem, roots, and leaves. So plant hormones get produced at a specific region. So hormones, there are certain specific hormones that get produced in the roots. There are specific hormones that get produced in the stem. There are certain hormones that get produced in the flower. That is what they mean when they say plant hormones are not true hormones because they bring about a response only in the region of the plant where they are produced. So you start seeing a change. Let's say a hormone gets released in the roots. You start seeing changes with how the roots are growing. If let's say the hormone gets released in the stem, you start seeing changes within the stem because that's where the hormone was produced. The hormones that we are going to look at are axons, gibberellins, and abscisic acid. So these hormones are also responsible for bringing about defense mechanisms. So if you're looking at that picture, on those pictures on your slide, you will see that one picture, there are thorns. The other picture, there's a secretion of some sort. So plants use defense mechanisms to protect themselves from predators, also to survive. So what brings about these thorns? What makes these thorns to grow? What makes these plants um, able to produce these secretions? Hormones. Certain plant hormones are responsible for bringing these defense mechanisms. So, plants protect themselves from injury or excessive predation by having thorns or by producing chemicals, such as the one you see in your slide, that have a bad taste or may be poisonous to predators, because predators are not going to eat flowers or plants with thorns because they're obviously going to get hurt. And some of these chemicals, they also smell bad, so animals will not eat these type of plants which produce these defense mechanisms. What brings about these defense mechanisms is the hormones. Hormones are very important in the life cycle of a plant. So now let us look at the different hormones. So the first one is the axons. So when you're looking at the section, you must keep in mind that there are two types of hormones. There are hormones that promote growth. Then there are hormones that inhibit growth. There are hormones that promote growth. Then there are hormones that inhibit growth. Axons promote growth. So axons are a group of plant hormones that are mainly produced in the apical meristem of stems and roots. So if you're looking at that slide, you'll see where the apical meristem is. There is the apical meristem. If you look at that picture, that yellow patch, and that is where you find axons being produced. So small amounts of axons are produced in the growing points of roots. Small amounts of axons are produced in the growing points of roots, not a large amount of axons. because if a large amount of exons are produced in the growing points of roots, that will inhibit the growth of the plant or the growth of the roots. So we don't need too many exons being produced. We just need the right amount. So always be careful, because I've seen in exam questions where they ask, what is happening? The plant is no longer growing. And a lot of students will get confused because they know that exons promote growth. But if there's too much of the exons, the amount is too large, that will mean now that the plant won't grow, because too much of the exons inhibit growth. So, what are the functions of exons? They stimulate cell division. So, without exons, processes such as mitosis would not be able to occur. They stimulate cell elongation when cells are becoming long. They promote apical dominance. They develop advantageous roots. They cause tropic movement in stems and roots. When you were looking at that picture of the sunflower and the sunflower was moving towards the light, that is what? That is a tropic movement. And they stimulate the development of fruit. So whenever you see a tree with lemons or peaches, just know that exons are the hormone that is responsible for bringing about the development of fruits. Then there's a picture there showing you the difference between lateral roots and advantageous roots. Advantageous roots grow because of the production of exons. Then we move to another hormone, which is a growth promoter, gibberellins. So, gibberellins promote stem elongation. They also stimulate cell division. It plays a role in the germination of seeds. It controls cell enlargement, and it promotes the development of buds, flowers, and fruit development. So, it is also known to promote the development of seedless fruits. So now, what is the difference between exons and gibberellins? Because it looks like they have the same function. So unlike exons, gibberellins stimulate the growth of side branches. So whenever you see a plant with side branches, just know that gibberellins are the hormone that is responsible for stimulating the growth of those side branches. Gibberellins play no part in the bending of a shoot or tropic movement. So exons are the hormones that are solely responsible for tropic movements. Gibberellins are not. Then we move on to the next hormone, which is abscisic acid. Now, abscisic acid causes the stomata to close. It promotes dominancy in both buds and seeds. It also hastens the process of leaves and fruits falling in unfavorable conditions. This is the response to the onset of winter in adverse conditions. So they are responsible for the retardation of growth. They also inhibit the growth of seeds if 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 there are unfavorable conditions or adverse conditions, meaning that when it's too cold, maybe in winter, then you start seeing that the plants will stop growing. Abscisic acid is the hormone that is responsible for that. So here's a summary. Plant hormones that are responsible for growth are your exons and your gibberellins, and plant hormones that inhibit growth is your abscisic acid. Then we move on to the tropisms. So a tropism is a response by part of a plant to an external stimulus. So if we're looking at that first picture where we saw the sunflower, which part of the plant responded to the external stimulus? It was the flower and the stem. And it was responding to which stimulus? It was responding to light. So there are three types now of tropisms. You have phototropism, geotropism, and hydrotropism. Phototropism, this is when now this is a plant growth response to light. So that is the sunflower. Stems grow towards the light and they are positively phototropic. Roots grow away from the light and they are said to be negatively phototropic because mostly roots are always underground. Okay? And they are negatively phototropic. Then you have geotropism. This is the growth response to gravity. So stems, think about stems. They are growing away from gravity because they are always upright. They are growing away from the ground. So they are said to be negatively geotropic. Roots grow towards gravity because most roots are found underground and they are said to be positively geotropic. Then you have hydrotropism. Hydrotropism, this is the growth response to the stimulus water. So stems grow away from water and they are said to be negatively hydrotropic. Roots grow towards water and they are said to be positively hydrotropic. So I hope you understood today's lesson and I'll see you next time.